Do you know that over the years that I've been reading tarot and doing numerology and working magic, do you know that it's almost always women? And I find it sad that men are so afraid of this. I find it sad that, in present company accepted, so many men go, yeah, you can go and do your funny little thing with that funny little person with a funny little tattoos and a funny little pack of tarot cards. And I find it sad because to be able to have dialogue with an entire tribe, with us as a species, to be able to get to the stage where we're beyond all that and beyond all those condescensions and those fears and that worry, this is a language which is usually, funnily enough, shocking to a lot of men that I've encountered, because they have an assumption that, and this is only, I'm only talking about men that I've met, I'm not generalizing at all. And there's an assumption that this is women's business, which of course it's not. This is earth business. Why is it considered to be a gendered thing?
Yeah, I find it interesting that perhaps it's the um
Can we just switch it over so that everybody who's talking can come on?
perhaps it's like that weird type of expectation or assumption, those Malengro terms, that men need to be or should be, I'll put that in rabbit ears as well, a certain type of way. Like men aren't supposedly supposed to be sensitive, or they don't dive in deeper to their feelings perhaps, or they're not supposed to dive into their feelings or to really go deep into the layers of pondering these things, that what we're doing, we're just diving in deeper and going into history, for want of a better term, and going into spirituality, for want of a better term. These are all just words, aren't they? They're just words that I suppose people already have, male people perhaps already have, these loaded words that people just put blocks up with. It's like, oh, the word witch, it's a loaded word. It brings up a certain connotation. The word spirituality, it's like, oh, you're a spiritual person, or oh, you think like that. And therefore, maybe does that make a man a less of a person, or in some way a weaker or inferior person, because they're sensitive like that? I really don't know the answer. I'm speculating.
It's odd that, because words are our gift. We've been gifted with words, whether it's through song or orality. And I wonder whether that's because of the concept or the construct of the term the people of the book, which is what most people of Orthodox religions relate are acceptable as the people of the book. No religion can be organized or recognized on an international level unless they are considered the people of the book. That's really most interesting, which means that unless a person seemingly has an academic background a seeming academic background, I say that for the simple reason that I have an academic background, but I disagree with the academic background, because the academic background will allow me to go down the rabbit holes that I choose to. So these words like witch and spirituality, etc., could be almost considered to be like a ring pass knot. Like, you can't get into this work unless in some way you throw away the bigotry of your concept of a word. Even the word witch is interesting. On my website you'll see the term wit magic, and the word wit comes from the word wisdom. It's that simple. Even amongst the Irish annals, or even Wales with the Gorset, when people come together for an Eisteddfod, one of the competitions that was always associated with satire, because satire is recognised as a tool that can bring down kings. It's also important, the other one I wanted to discuss with you was a concept of enlightenment, because I realised way back in 1991, just before I moved to the Byron region, that because I got struck with enlightenment, and getting struck with enlightenment, you might think that's like bit oxymoronic, but it isn't, because it's all of a sudden everything just seems funny, ludicrous. All of these deep and important mysticism, it just became ludicrous, because we're born, we live, we die, and in the meantime we create art. And the thing about magic is it's art and it's science, but it's not necessarily science the way science is yet. Are we in the past, present, and future, or are they all experienced simultaneously? And is it possible through the Lorentzian wormholes to be in several places at once hexagonally, so that when we dream, we're actually visiting? And are we visiting this human body that we're in now? All of this is an idea that's worth pursuing. I would like to hear your ideas or your perspectives, Danger, on this. Have you got an opinion that you'd like to share? If not, just say so.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you say in terms of it being very gendered in terms of a lot of this stuff. I mean, I've been involved in plenty of things from sort of dream work to medicine work to witchcraft. Without exception, my female friends are like, tell me a bit more. And so many male friends are kind of like, oh, it's your weird stuff again, and then sort of move the topic. As to why that is, I don't know. I do wonder whether sort of women, because they're connected to birth and nature in this sort of different way to us, so there's a bit more of a depth somehow that's going into those sort of dark natural places, which are quite scary.
Isn't it, if I can interrupt just for a second, I
Yeah.
almost think it's the opposite. That the
Okay.
dark, scary places for a man are the breaking away from that which is acceptably male in a very patriarchal society. Yeah, you are correct insofar as women are dirty and we're on the ground and we're covered in mud and detritus and the blood of the born and the unborn and the dead boys as well from every fucking war. But
Mm.
I also think that if I can add this, that it takes great courage for men to walk beyond the stereotypes of what's been created for them into the reality of their own learning. Because, as you know, and I've written to a few of you this week, but as you know, Danger, I've mentioned people like Arnie Deaconess, I've mentioned Robert McFarlane, I mentioned Wade Davis, there's a whole heap more, Darrell Rennie, the list keeps going, and these are all men of renown who have
Mm.
thought a little deeper and gone a little further. So that puts you in their company, that puts Ari in that company, and I think a lot of the time there's this kind of wisdom hunting shocks men because it perhaps questions their ideals on reality, and they no longer have an opportunity to just trivialize, like
Mm.
sport politics, perhaps.
Can
Yeah,
I?
maybe there's something
Sorry.
around the around sort of the rational and the irrational as well.
This is very
Um,
rational, what we're
Can I
doing.
say something, Law? Can I just point out that when Jeff first introduced his history, he used the word that for me kind of symbolizes how culturally adapted to this wisdom, this work. Those woo-woo redheaded girls do in high school, and anyone who does that isn't really in the real world. And the blokiness of that, like having grown up in country Australia, the blokiness of that doesn't sit well.
You'll hear it regularly that Australia is a Christian country,
Mm.
which means that establishment is very male. And the actual, I think it was around the 15th century, around the same time as Pope Leo said this has served as well as myth of Christ, was this implementation of the idea of celibacy. It's not an old understanding, it's quite a new understanding. And for an organization or a government per se to lay on any individual that kind of a curse, isn't it interesting that how well is that able to shut a man up? And also the other thing of significance, men are not hunting. They're not teaching their sons the skills of working with a lathe, of how to work with arrows. This is not just men's business, because I do it as well, but there is a serious lack for men of initiation rites into manhood. Not only serious, but also dangerous. Because we've actually, Morgan and I were having this discussion earlier about going through the rites of passage, and the initiation processes are deadly. And if you make it through, whether that's the use of psilocybin and different forms of the forest mothers that can, with the hero's dose, challenge your very physicality, doesn't really matter if you mulch down, but to come through that, what is changed?
in terms of why people are not attracted to this kind of work as men, I mean, they must be insane, in my opinion.
I feel like it's in some way men think it's in some type of inferior thing. Like it's weird, but there's a lot of men that see people that guys that do yoga. It's like, you know, yoga's a woman's thing, and they, you know, guys that do yoga, then they're weaker or they're effeminate or whatever. It's the same kind of a thing. It's like this, there's this imprint in this masculine stereotype which has been drummed into us through generations, and it's been drummed into us through the media, it's been drummed into us everywhere. And I feel like a lot of men are just afraid to bust out of that stereotype, that blokey, yobbo, whatever it is, because they'll be seen in some way, they think, as weaker, inferior, or whatever that might be, because they're not in touch with their sensitivity, or they're not in touch with their, you know, whatever it might be.
Well, it's interesting because Letitia brought up the fact that it's similar in dance, and that's worth mentioning. Has anybody here actually been to or seen Bangara dancing?
Yep. Amazing.
There is nothing weak, vulnerable. I mean, what it is a colonialist mindset. And those of you who are doing this work of any gender, beyond the stereotypes, breaking that mindset of you must be in your space. You must stay in your fucking hole. This is what we break it open. And as in many instances, everybody here is a way shower. However you choose to work with that is entirely up to you. It becomes your profession, or it can become the way you talk and what we teach our children. And I think that that's really profound as well. And not only that, if I can bring it up, I think it's important that men can teach their fathers this and break it open by talking about what the men are afraid of. So many fathers, for example, returned from Vietnam. So many grandfathers have returned from the Second World War, devastated, brutalized, no sense of themselves anymore, and they shut up and they don't tell their offspring. And every one of these men needs to say, it is terrible, and we were conned. And I think that one of the most important phenomenon that keeps men from this path is this realization that they've been conned. And once the con stops, they can stop being brutal. They can stop wanting to hurt people that they love. They can stop going, what else do I do? Because this is what we do. And then we work it. And I honestly feel that the most significant thing of all of us, what we've got, the gift that we've been given as a species, is our capacity to be storytellers from generation to generation. And whether that's done through dance, movement, eye contact, body language, song particularly. Otherwise, what we're listening to is a rhetoric of lies, what could be termed as legal fictions, like religion. They're all legal fictions. There is nothing mystical about that. That doesn't mean there is no mysticism because it's profound. It doesn't mean there are unseen things that don't touch us every day, because they fucking do. And I can remember being in a bad mood traveling from Mullumbimby towards Byron Bay, and I was probably in a position where I could have caused an accident quite easily. And I was driving at 100k an hour down the highway, and I was overtaken by a truck, and it got in front of me, and on the back was a sign that said chill. I did. Because we don't know where these messages are going to come from. But life has a way, like with crop circles, for example, which is a whole other discussion that we could get into. Life has a way of saying, look, I'm showing you. First of all, Earth creates circles with crop circles. And I could speculate that our ancestors would go, oh, here's where we build a henge. Here's where we build a closed system, like a Bora ring, like the standing stones around the Isle of Lewis. This is where we build because we're shown.